Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mr.MoFranchise. It's time for the Season 3 N.F.L. Draft and a little bit of the offseason. So let's get to it. Let's see if Jacksonville can draft some players to add to last year's 9-7 playoff team and see if we can't win our division this year. As far as how I do the NFL draft is I don't just allow myself to just pick players. I have this little chart here that shows me, like, does the GM get involved? Does the GM require us to trade up or trade down, trade out of the round, trade for players, trade for picks, things like that. And so I use this chart to help me in each round. So let's go ahead and do a recap of how the draft went. So as I said in the previous slide, on our first pick, we had pick number 21. What I was looking for was some sort of edge rusher or maybe another cornerback or even a big, hard-hitting receiver to make things even more exciting for our receiving core. But the GM said, no, we're going to trade out of the first round. And that was a little bit of a surprise. I was hoping to get a starter in the first round, but the GM said, no, thank you. And so the GM actually traded our first-round pick this year for a second-round pick this year, a fourth-round pick this year, and a seventh-round pick next year. So we sort of traded out of the first round. The GM wasn't satisfied with what we had to pick at pick 21. So I had to wait for the second round, and I had two picks there. So the very first pick in the second round, when I got to pick 18, and that was, by the way, the 49ers pick, they picked 3 slots ahead of us. What I was looking for, the talent level wasn't quite there compared to what I was looking to get. And there was this Rashad Clayton offensive lineman. And I know for the last 3 seasons we've been drafting linemen, but he just was too talented to let go. And so I went ahead and drafted Rashad Clayton. He ended up being a 75 normal. That may not sound like a home run pick, but later on when I looked at the draft, he was actually the 7th or 8th best player in the draft itself. So for us to get him, with the 50th pick, I thought was pretty cool. And while he's not going to be a starter on day one, if there is an injury to any of my linemen, he is my super sub, and he is the future replacement for my only aging lineman that we have on the team. That would be Taylor Decker. And so Rashad Clayton is going to come in right away. He's going to get some experience in preseason, and eventually he will probably be a starting lineman for me. And then with the next pick, that was our original pick, we felt like, looking at the team, that secondary was a big deal. Last year we gave up a lot of third and longs, and Solomon Urkel was there, and so we drafted him at the strong safety position, and he is a 67 hidden. His name is italicized here because he was, when I rolled on that chart, he's one that is is scout influenced, so his number will be affected by our head scout. Then we went to the third round, and in this round I rolled, and I didn't get to pick this person. The GM actually picked them for me, and the GM did a great job here. They picked Bob Dukes, who was an undrafted fullback, who, when I had scouted him, he was a first round pick, and I was surprised that the computer drafted this person for us, but they did, and he's a 71 normal overall, and our current fullback, Jabari Parker, is a 70. So Dukes is going to come in and get the starting job right out of the gates. So I was very pleased the GM saw Bob Dukes. I had him on my board as well. So good job, GM, on Bob Dukes. Then we had 2 picks in the 4th round. The pick 18, the 49ers pick, I went with Cornell Harbour, halfback, 65 normal. Doesn't look like it's a great pick, but Cornell Harbour offers some size. He's more of a power back. And so I'm hoping that he complements Kyle Hill, who's more of a speed back. And yes, there's Marlon Mack, but if there is a halfback that goes down, it's nice to know that we've got some halfback depth right now. A couple picks later, this is the pick I'm most happy with of the whole draft, and that was Martin Barrett. He was an undrafted defensive tackle that I happened to notice he had a big combine, so I sort of scouted him, and his numbers look really good. And while he's probably slightly undersized for a nose tackle since we played the 3-4, he has the speed and size that I want to move him to end. So next season, I'm going to move him to end, and I'm really thinking about starting him because he has that hidden talent. And while we may drop overall number-wise, I'm thinking let the rookie play at the end and see if he can't get us some more pass rush, which I feel like we're lacking on this team. Then we go to round 5, and this was another one where the GM picked, and the GM picked Lorenzo Vick, a 63 free safety, and who is normal, and that certainly gives us a lot of depth at free safety. Although when I look at my roster after the draft, I've got a lot of those free safeties at like the 63, 64, 65 spots. So probably a practice squad guy. And then in round 6 and 7, all the people on my board were gone. So these were basically blind picks. And so in round 6, pick 21, I picked Jerry Cobb. He's a 57 normal wide receiver, and he will be a practice squad guy. He will not make the team right out of the gates. And then with the 7th pick, since I let our 3rd string quarterback go, I wanted to get a 3rd string quarterback, and Cooper Fry was an undrafted quarterback. And as you can tell by his number, you can see why he was supposedly an undrafted quarterback. He is a 53 normal, and he will probably be on the practice squad. And if, of course, we have an injury to one of our quarterbacks, then he would step up and take that spot. So that is a recap of the draft. Overall, since the GM did the trade down, I'm still pleased that, Rashad Clayton is a super sub lineman and a future starter. I'm pleased that our fullback is going to be a starter, and I think Martin Barrett, our 4th round defensive tackle, I'm leaning towards starting him in the preseason and letting him get starts at the end, even though his number isn't going to be as high as the other ones that we have. And if not, he'll still get some experience and then maybe one day become that starting. And then, as I said, I did have one player that was scouting adjusted, and that was our safety, I should say strong safety, Urkel. And he was I rolled, our scout has a B rating, and so I rolled a 2, and so I was able to influence him with a D3 rating, and I rolled a 1, so I improved his speed by 1 point. So Urkel went up 1 point from an 89 to a 90, and that makes him a very fast, strong safety. And then in the offseason, the competition committee meets and proposes some rules. I roll a D6 to see how many rules they're proposing. This year I rolled a 6, so this is the most rules that have ever been proposed in the N.F.L. offseason competition committee. And my rolls were 5, 11, 32, 35, 36, and 45. So let's go over the 6 rules and see if any of them were approved. In order to be approved, I roll on a 100-sided die. They have to roll a 1 through 25, which symbolizes that in the NFL, they need a 75% approval rating to be voted on. So here are the 6 rules that were proposed. Rule number 5 was going to basically say that next year, each game, instead of being a full play, I would always begin each game rolling a 4-sided die, and that's the quarter that I would be starting in. So there would be no more guaranteed full play games. They would all be D4 games. And I rolled a 29, so it almost was approved, but it was rejected. Then the next rule is Rule 11, and that would be to increasing the size of the roster from 46 to 47. The highlighter's on the wrong one there. It was actually Rule 11, and it was approved. I rolled a 10. So the minimum roster size will now be 47 for next season. Then Rule 32 was proposed, and that would be a XP slider change to the defensive tackles. That would increase them by a D10. I rolled an 87, so that was rejected. And then Rule 5 was going to look to decrease the XP for middle linebackers, and that was rejected with a roll of a 28. And then Rule 36 was looking to increase the slider XP for outside linebackers, and that actually was approved with a roll 16, so I rolled a 3. So outside linebackers will be getting more XP next year by an increase of 3 on the XP slider. And the final rule change was 45, and that was going to decrease the XP slider for kickers, and that was rejected with a roll of 49. So 2 rules were approved. So next year the rosters will be 47 minimum instead of 46, and outside linebackers will get a boost of 3 on the XP slider. And then the final thing in the offseason is the random event. And this one I roll a D20 to see if there's any offseason random events that change our team. I rolled an 18, and it says if your team did not make the playoffs last year, your defensive coordinator decides to change to a new scheme. Well, I made the playoffs last year, so we are going to keep our scheme the way it is. And that's all for the offseason. In the next episode, we will have the preseason of Season 4. If you haven't already, think about subscribing and smash that like button. Tell a friend. The Jaguars are coming into Season 4 excited since they made the playoffs last year. Can they improve on their 9-7 season? Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.